Ezekiel 42. Then the man led me northward into the outer court, and brought me to the rooms opposite the temple courtyard, and opposite the outer wall on the north side. The building whose door faced north was 100 cubits long and 50 cubits wide. Both in the section 20 cubits in the inner court, and the section opposite the pavement of the outer court. Gallery faced gallery at the 3 levels. In front of the rooms was an inner passageway 10 cubits wide and 100 cubits long. Their doors were on the north. Now the upper rooms were narrower, for the galleries took more space from them than from the rooms in the lower and middle floors of the building. The room on the 3rd floor had no pillars, as the courts had, so they were smaller in floor space than those in the lower and middle floors. There was an outer wall parallel to the rooms in the outer court. It extended in front of the rooms for 50 cubits. While the row of rooms on the side next to the outer court was 50 cubits long, the row on the side nearest the sanctuary was 100 cubits long. The lower rooms had an entrance on the east side, as one enters them from the outer court. I'm going to tell you, I don't know what these mean. I really don't. You'd have to find someone who could diagram this and explain it to you. This is just words to me. On the south side, along the length of the wall of the outer courtyard, adjoining the temple courtyard and opposite the outer wall were rooms, with a passageway in front of them. These were like the room on the north. They had the same length and width, with similar exits and dimensions. Similar to the doorways of the north were the doorways of the rooms in the south. There was a doorway at the beginning of the passageway that was parallel to the corresponding wall extending eastward, by which one enters the rooms. Then he said to me, the north and south rooms facing the temple courtyard are the priests' rooms, where the priests who approach the Lord will eat the most holy offerings. There they will put the most holy offerings, the grain offerings, the sin offerings, and the guilt offerings, for the place is holy. We read about this a lot back in Leviticus. Okay, this is language that goes straight back to the Torah, to the words of Moses, to the instructions to the priests at the time. Again, Ezekiel was a priest, so he cared a lot about this sort of thing. Once the priests enter the holy precincts, they are not to go into the outer court until they leave behind the garments in which they minister. These are holy, so they can't just wear those anywhere. They are to put on other clothes before they go near the places that are for the people. When he had finished measuring what was inside the temple area, he led me out by the east gate and measured the area all around. He measured the east side with the measuring rod. It was 500 cubits. He measured the north side. It was 500 cubits by the measuring rod. He measured the south side. It was 500 cubits by the measuring rod. He went to the west side and measured it. It was 500 cubits by the measuring rod. So he measured the area on all 4 sides. He had a wall around it, 500 cubits long and 500 cubits wide, to separate the holy from the common. That was one of the priest's duties. If you go back to read Leviticus again, one of the priest's functions was to separate the holy from the common, the clean from the unclean, and to teach the Israelites the difference. Then the man brought me to the gate facing east. Remember, that's the most important gate. And I saw, that's the direction that God left from back when he left the city and his temple in the early part of Ezekiel. Now he's going to be coming back that way. And I saw the glory of the God of Israel coming from the east. So he's coming back. He is returning to the temple. His voice was like the roar of rushing waters, and the land was radiant with his glory. The vision I saw was like the vision I had seen when he came to destroy the city, and like the visions I had seen by the Kibar River, and I fell face down. So it's the same thing. God on top of his throne, on top of this expanse, on top of the cherubim, on top of the wheels, like this whole apparatus, which is the noble throne of God, the chariot of God. The glory of the Lord entered the temple through the gate facing east, so he is back in the temple again. Then the Spirit filled me up and brought me into the inner court, and the glory of the Lord filled the temple. While the man was standing beside me, I heard someone speaking to me from inside the temple. He said, son of man, or human, this is the place of my throne, and the place for the soles of my feet. This is where I will live among the Israelites forever. The house of Israel will never again defile my holy name, neither they nor their kings, by their prostitution and the lifeless idols of their kings in these high places. Remember, when he says this to the people, they're supposed to hear this as a personal remind you, don't do this. Forget of your idols, forget about this. Remove these things from your presence. When they placed their threshold next to my threshold, and their doorpost besides my doorposts, with only a wall between me and them, they defiled my holy name by their detestable practices. So I destroyed them in my anger. Now let them put away from me their prostitution and the lifeless idols of their kings, and I will live among them forever. So that is, again, a message to the people of Ezekiel's own day. If you want this temple, if you want this idealized vision of the future to come true, get rid of your idols. Son of man, describe the temple to the people of Israel, that they may be ashamed of their sins. Now, I don't get ashamed of my sins when I read this description of the temple. It just does not have that effect on me. It's supposed to have that effect on Ezekiel's readers. But it does not have that effect on me. I don't have the connection to the temple that they did. I don't see the temple as being essential to the vision of the world as they did. So it does not have that effect on me, and it's not going to have that effect on you either, I guarantee it. I'm not going to pretend to entertain the notion that anybody listening to me is going to be ashamed of their sins because they read the description of this temple. It just doesn't, it's not the case for us today. But it was the case for Ezekiel and the people that he was supposed to be reading this to, or speaking this to. Describe the temple to the people of Israel that they may be ashamed of their sins. Let them consider the plan. That's what we just got done describing. And if they are ashamed of all they have done, make known to them the design of the temple, its arrangements, its exits and its entrances, its whole design and all its regulations and laws. Write these down before them, so they may be faithful to its design and follow all its regulations. Now, when they actually go back to build a temple again 50 years from now, they're not going to build this temple. And God's not going to be upset with them for not building it. So we're not talking about a temple that's ever actually going to be built physically and literally. This is the law of the temple. All the surrounding area on top of the mountain will be most holy. Remember that most holy designation? That goes back to the law again. Such is the law of the temple. These are the measurements of the altar in long cubits. If you have a temple and you have sacrifices and offerings, you've got to have an altar to offer them on. These are the measurements of the altar in long cubits, that cubit being a cubit and a handbreadth. Its gutter is a cubit deep and a cubit wide, with a rim of one span around the edge. And this is the height of the altar. From the gutter on the ground up to the lower ledge, it is 2 cubits high and a cubit wide. And from the smaller ledge up to the lower ledge, it is 4 cubits high and a cubit wide. The altar hearth is 4 cubits high, and 4 horns project upward from the hearth. The altar hearth is square, 12 cubits long and 12 cubits wide. The upper ledge also is square, 14 cubits long and 14 cubits wide, with a rim of half a cubit and a gutter of a cubit all around. The steps of the altar face east. Then he said to me, Son of man, this is what the sovereign Lord says. These will be the regulations for sacrificing burnt offerings and sprinkling blood upon the altar when it is built. You are to give a young bull as a sin offering to the priests, who are Levites, of the family of Zadok, who come near to minister before me, declares the sovereign Lord. You are to take some of its blood and put it on the 4 horns of the altar, and on the 4 corners of the upper ledge and all around the rim, and so purify the altar and make atonement for it. You are to take the bull for the sin offering and burn it in the designated part of the temple area outside the sanctuary. On the second day you are to offer a male goat without defect for a sin offering, and the altar is to be purified as it was purified with the bull. When you have finished purifying it, you are to offer a young bull and a ram from the flock, both without defect. This sounds a lot like what we read about in Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers and Deuteronomy. We've read this before, haven't we? We've read a lot about this before. You are to offer them before the Lord, and the priests are to sprinkle salt on them and sacrifice them as a burnt offering to the Lord. For 7 days you are to provide a male goat for a sin offering. You are also to provide a young bull and a ram from the flock, both without defect. For 7 days they are to make atonement for the altar and cleanse it. Thus they will dedicate it. Remember, there was always a 7-day dedication process. Even the creation in Genesis 1 had a 7-day dedication process. That's where the whole thing was based on. The whole concept was based on a 7-day dedication process. At the end of these days, from the 8th day on, the priests are to present your burnt offerings and fellowship offerings on the altar. You read Leviticus, I think 8, 9, 10, 11 to read about their first 7-day ordination process. Solomon had a 7-day dedication process for his temple too. The priests are to present your burnt offerings and fellowship offerings on the altar. Then I will accept you, declares the sovereign Lord. Now, the temple system itself has been done away with. The book of Hebrews makes that clear. Jesus is a new high priest. He is a high priest forever. He has done away with the Aaronic priesthood and all the regulations that went with that, which is what this is talking about. This is the Aaronic priesthood. The family of Zadok from the line of Levi, which includes Aaron along the way. This is the Aaronic priesthood offering sacrifices, daily sacrifices on the altar in this idealized temple. Now, Ezekiel could not envision an idealized future without this. To Ezekiel, a vision of an idealized Israel has to have a temple, has to have a priesthood, has to have sacrifices. But the New Testament is going to make it clear that these things passed away. So a temple built in this day and age, even if they build a temple, and even if they offer sacrifices again, these are not going to be holy and pleasing sacrifices to the Lord. The day for that has ended. Offering your bulls and your rams and your goats is no longer a way to appeal or appease the Lord. It's no longer the way of having fellowship with God. So even if they were to build another temple and follow these patterns and offer the sacrifices, it would not be a temple holy and pleasing to the Lord, because those days are done and they are not going to be reinstated again.